Konnichiwa. Nihon Kriketo Podcast yokoso. Boku no namae wa Alan desu. I think that even those who have never heard a word of Japanese before can understand that. But just in case, hello and welcome to the Japan Cricket Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Kerr, and on this show, I will speak to the people who have played a role in the shaping of cricket in Japan, both on and off the field. So coming on to part two, international cricket. As mentioned at the top of part one, you were called into the squad at a very young age. You were called in as a 14-year-old, I think. And you made your
14?
I reckon you might have been. And you made your debut as a 15-year-old. Were you surprised when you first got called up in 2015?
Yeah, I was surprised because obviously, there were so many better cricketers than me who were not part of that setup anymore, which I was pretty shocked at, to be honest, because there are players like Alex Patmore that I looked up to who wasn't part of that setup at that stage. And thinking, I did have some doubts about me because, it is a hard role to fill. So, I mean, I was surprised, but I did understand that it was a case of JCA investing in these young players. So I knew it's hard to explain, but I knew I didn't have to
set the world alight from day one.
Yeah, it wasn't the case of me, scoring my international 100 on my debut. It was about, building something new for Japan cricket and
learning the game and learning your own role.
I knew it was a learning process, and I knew it is something that I wasn't gonna escape from, and it was something that I'll stick to and keep working hard. And it's still the case.
Yeah, definitely. Doesn't stop now. You made your debut in 2016 in the East Asia Cup in Sano, so you got to make your debut in Japan.
Yeah.
What are your memories of that particular tournament?
I think that was a great time. Like, I was 15 back then to play international cricket. I think I was in the squad as a backup wicket keeper, but I actually played as a specialist number 5, which was interesting, and I actually quite enjoyed it because
bit of freedom.
Yeah, you've got nothing to lose, and to be playing with the big boys, against other countries. Like, I think I made my debut against China.
Yep, I umpired that game too.
Yeah, all I remember from that game is I've hit a 6, and I was pretty happy. So, I think I was a pure 15 years old back then.
I think you hit one in the final as well, didn't you? You hit a 6 into the Cheaper Sharks.
I hit the only 6. Yeah, the Cheaper Sharks. Oh, good.
So then, okay, that followed up quite quickly with, Japan. Okay, Japan lost the final in that tournament to Korea, but still a good tournament all round and a great learning experience. And you then went to Bendigo for your first ICC tournament in January, February 2017. Went to the MCG on that trip. What are your memories of that tour as a whole? It's a bit different, right?
It was different. Obviously, ICC tournaments are different to East Asia Cups, but just I think the countries that we played against were slightly better than the teams we played in East Asia Cups, and it really made me understand the level of cricket that we had to be.
It was 50 over cricket as well, right?
It was 50 over cricket too, yeah. So, we played against teams like, Vanuatu, Fiji. We didn't get to play the PNG, but we really got to understand the levels of the cricket that these other countries are playing, and that's the level we had to be. So it was a fun tournament, but also it was a good learning experience too.
So then, following that, we went to Hong Kong in 2018 for the next East Asia Cup, which Japan actually won that tournament, but you weren't there. So you missed that tournament.
Yeah.
So why don't you explain a little bit the reasons behind missing that tournament? Because you then did travel just 2 months later to the Philippines for the next ICC tournament. So it wasn't the case of you weren't good enough to get in the squad. There was other things at play.
Yeah. So I guess it's one of the challenges playing international cricket when you are not professional is that sometimes it can cost you a bit. And I think East Asia Cup's one of the tournaments that are self-funded, and I was paying I worked part-time back then to pay for my cricket, and I purely couldn't spend that amount of the money to go on a trip, which is it's just a shame because you do want to play for your country, and you do want to make people proud, but there is a challenge that comes with it too.
Yeah, for sure. And it's something that I hope that we can, like, I hope no one else is in that position again, because from my point of view, sometimes you might have work commitments that you can't get out of, and that might force you to miss a tournament. And that's kind of the way it can go sometimes. But when it comes to missing a tournament because you can't afford to go, that's pretty rubbish. So it's something I want to try and make sure never happens again.
Yeah, it is definitely changed a little by little though, because I think in the last 2 years, I think yourself and people at JC have worked pretty hard to cut that amount of money that we had to pay, and it is definitely getting better little by little. But
it was a big commitment with 2 tournaments back to back as well, and that may well happen again next year with the where the fixture schedule is looking. Okay, so you did get to go to the Philippines. Now that was a really interesting tournament. Japan won our first 3 games, and at the halfway point was sitting top of the table and looking great, and then proceeded to lose the next 3 games and finished third somehow. Tell us a little bit about what went right and what went wrong over those 6 match days.
It's a hard question. The first 3 days of that tournament was, I don't know, I think I see a lot of comments on social media that Japan was too confident after those 3 days, but we actually won, and we understood that these other countries were playing, good enough cricket to beat us, and it was the case of I think, again, executing well on that day. And
yeah, I mean, looking at those matches, the Indonesia game, we took 6 for 15 or something to bowl them out when they were only chasing 130 or something like that. They fell apart. And then the Philippines game, we only won by 3 runs or something. It was really tight.
Yeah.
And then the Korea game, we were battling to chase 140 before Amigos suddenly teed off and just got a few away, and all of a sudden we chased it down with 3 overs to spare. So it was, although we'd won 3 out of 3, they're all pretty tight games. And then
it wasn't the case that we were dominating.
No, the next 3 games were all tight as well. They went against us. That's sport, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, definitely. And I mean, pressure definitely had something to do with it, and I don't think we coped with it well enough. But
as always, learning experience, right? And as we've said,
it is.
You've had setbacks in your cricket career on the field, and hopefully these experiences make stronger going forward.
Yeah, and we haven't played international cricket after that, so it is a shame. And we are very passionate to get that redemption.
Yeah, and get back out in the field. Hopefully next year there'll be a lot of cricket for the men.
Yeah.
So then, okay, you then had you're an interesting case in that you've played 3 senior international tournaments for the men's team before you made your under-19 debut. Japan not having an under-19 side for most of your junior playing days. So when the academy was formed in 2018 and it became apparent that Japan was going to take part in the World Cup qualifiers, how did you feel about that? Was that something you got pretty excited about?
I was excited, but at the same time I was also very, I don't know, it's hard to explain the feeling, but very disappointed that we didn't get the run before that, because the players that we had before then was probably even better than the team we took to the World Cup. So it was, I don't know, I think the frustrating is the right word for that, I think, because it would have been a couple of great years of under-19s cricket, I reckon.
Yeah, and the reasons that we were not able to compete in those tournaments have never been made particularly clear to any of us. But that's another debate. So then that tournament came round in 2019 in Sano again, playing in front of the home crowd and captain of the Japan under-19s. Was that an honour for you? Was that something you're particularly proud of?
Yeah, definitely. I think I was the oldest, and I think slightly older player was Neil, and he was the vice captain, and he helped me out so much because he made my job very easy on the field, because he's very good at looking after people, and he looked after so many things off the field. And made my job very easy on the field. So he takes a lot of credit for that. I think playing in front of family, the crowd is amazing, and I do love playing in front of those people. So I've never felt that privileged to be on the cricket field, I think.
That's cool. And so going into that tournament, what were your expectations? Did you think that Japan had a chance at winning it, or did you think it was going to be a bit of a learning curve, given that you'd had these senior experiences and Japan had a few wins, but when we came up against the Islanders, Vanuatu, Samoa, Fiji back in Bendigo, we got a bit of a toweling down. So did you think their under-19s were going to be strong sides as well?
Yeah, I think I said in the interview before the tournament that it was going to be a great tournament to know that where we stand in the region. But I also said at the same time we can be the X factor, and that was the case. After the first game, we had a big win against I think it was Samoa.
Yeah,
and
beat them by 160 runs or something.
We might actually be pretty good here, and we had a game against Vanuatu the next day.
Next game.
Yeah, and I think
defended 170 or so, but it was a bit tighter that game.
It was a tighter game, but I remember realizing it is on here because I don't know. Like before the tournament, I don't think we even knew that Cricket World Cup was going to be in South Africa, and I think it was after those two games that we started thinking about that the World Cup in South Africa. So yeah,
I think that going into that tournament, as you said, I knew, Dougal knew how good our players were, but we had no idea the standard of the other players.
Definitely.
Like we hadn't seen any of these guys play junior cricket ever, so we really didn't know quite what we were going to be up against. So yeah, after that first game against Samoa, I was like, okay, we might be all right here.
Yeah.
Okay, so then scraped home in the Fiji match. That was a bit tighter, but going into that last round, 3 wins from 3, knowing you're going to be playing against Papua New Guinea, the traditional powerhouse in the region.
Yeah.
The night before that match was scheduled, how were you guys feeling?
We were pretty relaxed, but there were like a couple of nervous faces, and I think I was one of them.
Yeah, you're not one to hide your emotions, Marcus.
No. But yeah.
Was there excitement, talk at the dinner table, people thinking about, we could do this? Was there much sort of discussion of how you're going to approach the game, or did you just kind of try and stay relaxed as possible?
Yeah, there was like definitely a chat about how we're gonna go into this game, and it was just like the same stuff, the stuff that we've done well. It's just like it's a thing in international tournaments. You don't really play against these guys too often, so you don't really know what you're gonna be playing against. It is like knowing your strengths and executing that. So I think it was the case, just reminding people that just play your best cricket. And I think everyone did, but you check the other scorecards that PNG's played, and they realized that
try and realize who their big players are.
Yeah, but also at the same time, like they've lost 7 wickets against that country, so why can't we do it, sort of thing. And realizing that there's a game on tomorrow, like it is proper game on, like
Oh, definitely.
It is definitely. It wasn't like a case of it's gonna be them smashing us.
So then, of course, you arrive at the ground. You get off the bus.
Yeah.
Talk us through what happened next and how you felt in that sort of half an hour.
I don't really remember much because I sort of got lost. I think like lost is like the best word to describe it, because it was just a weird feeling. So we arrived at the ground and PNG wasn't there. And what we saw was you instead of PNG, and we had this face that something didn't look right. And you started to talk what was going on. And I thought it was one of our players disciplining something. I was like, shit, something's not right here. Then I heard the story, and I think for like, I don't know, a couple of seconds there, I couldn't hear anything, sort of thing. I just could not believe what just happened, because it's not like the team doesn't pull out on the the day before in the match that there's a World Cup on the line. So to know that they pulled out from the game, it was a shock. And then a few seconds later, I just realized we are going to South Africa. So it was like weird emotion there, and I was just lost in the moment because, you know,
It was a funny morning for sure. I was there,
yeah,
obviously knowing I had to break this news, and Dougal was in that group and hearing it for the first time as well. And I'd known
yeah,
about it since the night before, but I wasn't really sure quite how to break it to the group. And I wasn't quite
mm,
sure what reaction I was going to get. And so then, everyone went mad. Everyone was like jumping up and down and hugging each other and shouting, "We're going to the World Cup."
yeah,
But you were stood off slightly to the side, just looking, yeah, as you said, lost and dazed. And Dougal as well was just like, "What? So we're not playing a game today?"
yeah.
And then the rest of that day was obviously, I guess, passed in a bit of a blur.
Mm.
But then
It was a weird day.
it was a weird day. So then the tournament comes to an end, and Japan are champions, and you got named best batter and tournament MVP. That must have been quite nice to get those individual accolades, but I guess it was the team victory that meant the most.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know, but it's not every day that I get those prizes. So, I mean, I was pretty shocked to be honest, but I was just so disappointed I didn't get to play against PNG because I think you really,
You want to play against the best teams, right?
yeah, you could have really shown what you and your team's got against those best teams. So I was just very disappointed that I couldn't play them, and I've never played PNG yet. So,
Yes, same.
mhm.
I've never come up against them. Do you think it detracted a little bit from the World Cup experience that you got there through default rather than having beaten them on the field?
um, yes and no.
For what it's worth, I don't think it does at all.
Like it would have been better if we played them because like the whole team was in a great spirit during the
Mm.
qualifiers, and I honestly think that we could have beaten them.
Yeah, I do too.
Like,
I think there's a lot of people out there who might
mm,
have just thought, oh, well, it was a foregone conclusion if the game had been played, that PNG would win, and I don't think that was the
yeah,
case at all.
no, definitely not. I was quite confident going into that game. Yeah,
So then the World Cup was just suddenly the next thing, and there was a lot of work to be done in the build up to that. Talk us through sort of the next, I guess it would have been 6-7 months of preparation time, and how your focus kind of shifted towards getting ready for a World Cup, and then the draw coming out and saying we're going to have a televised game against India. And how did you feel about all that stuff?
yeah. Game was I don't know. The best word was it was fun. Definitely, just like playing, preparing for a World Cup with the same age group players week in week out, coming together almost every week and playing cricket, getting better slowly, little by little, and I don't think we realized that we had made some improvements during that time. And we had the tour in Australia and we got hammered pretty badly in that tour, which was tough for us because, our next tournament was going to be World Cup tournament. So those preparation were great, but I don't know.
It was a really difficult one to plan for. We would have liked, ideally, to have taken the boys away that summer,
Mm,
but there was a lot of
yeah,
confusion around when funding would come through and what funding would
yeah,
be, and whether or not we could afford to do something. We'd have liked to taken the group to somewhere like England, for example, to play the kind of matches that we ended up playing in Australia.
yeah,
To give the boys an eye opener into what standard they would expect at the World
mm,
Cup, and that would then change the training a little bit. Unfortunately, that wasn't able to happen. And of course, with the tournament taking place in January and February, it's the middle of our winter, so we were always restricted in terms of what we could do without an indoor centre and things like that. So
yeah,
we ended up choosing the Australia trip because we just had to get some cricket into you guys. And so,
yeah,
whilst it wasn't ideal that the opposition was generally stronger than us throughout that tour, I do think that there was plenty of positives that came out of it. Most people did manage to get
yeah,
some runs, and the bowlers, got some matches under their belt, which is important. And I think it just helped sharpen up the team selection, and from the managers and coaches' point of view, it just was a bit helpful.
yeah. I think that tour really made us realize the improvements that we made with I think Rowan O'Neill came from
Mm.
Australia for that couple of months, and there are guys who really took their cricket seriously in that period of time. Guys like, I think Deba, changed his whole technique and might actually turned into an off spinner in that
And
period
Sora
of
as
time.
well
So
turned into a spinner.
it's sort of turned into a spinner too. So there are like, a lot of changes, and that Australian tour that we went on made us realize that, we have made some improvements in that time, in that short period of time. So
It's amazing to think that our 2 frontline spinners at the World Cup were bowling seam in the qualifiers.
yeah,
So, okay. So then we actually get to South Africa.
yeah.
So, I mean, we've talked already about, how you've grown up around cricket and the opportunities it's given you in terms of playing the game and meeting new people. But going to a place like South Africa, which is so, so different from Japan, must have been
Mm,
quite the experience and quite the learning curve for you. Not just on the
yeah,
cricket side of things, but just as a personal perspective as well.
yeah, definitely. Because it's not every day that you get to travel in a country in Africa, and just on the bus, that's, the things we saw outside was like very different to what we usually see.
We played a warm-up game in Soweto, right?
Yeah, and it made us like appreciate what we have every day, and it was just a good life learning experience.
Definitely. So how did you feel like out there during that tournament, before the first game, playing New Zealand? What were your emotions going into that? Were you excited? Were you nervous? Were you scared? Were you worried? Were you
Well,
just thinking, let's try and enjoy this?
yeah, another one that I don't really remember if I was nervous or not, but I think we knew that we were not going to win those games. Like, it wasn't the case of like, an upset against New Zealand or India. Like, it was just like, I knew we're going into a tough cricket game. And what I really wanted to do during that World Cup, especially against the India game, was that show everyone that, we can play cricket. It's not like, we can play cricket, we can play cricket. And especially in that India game, we really wanted to show people around the world that, you still see comments like, "Well, Japan plays cricket,"
Mm.
And what I wanted to do during that World Cup was to change that and realize that, we do have a cricket team here that can play cricket. So I remember after the India game, I was just disappointed because that wasn't. I mean, we were not going to beat India. Like, there was no chance, but I don't think we were a side that was going to get bowled out for 44. Like, I thought we were better than that. So I was pretty disappointed that we didn't get to show everyone around the world that, we can play cricket, sort of thing.
Well, to be fair, you were playing against like 4 guys with IPL contracts.
Yeah.
I can't remember if I told you this. The guy who got you out, Tyagi,
Yeah.
did you see who his first wicket was in the IPL?
Was it Collie?
It's Kane Williamson. So,
Oh, right.
I mean, things you got in common, mate. He's got you out, he's got Kane out. So, he must be doing all right. So, yeah, I think you're right. And everything you said there echoes very much for me as well. Even now, when I tell people I work for the Japan Cricket Association, I get this response of, "Oh, is that your full-time job?" It's like, yes, it's a full-time job. It's my full-time job. And it still, frankly, irritates the hell out of me. But, and I bring this up as well in our JCA planning meetings. Like, that's what I want to change. We're looking at our next 5-year strategy. I want people to know that Japan is a cricket playing nation.
Yeah.
How do we do that? And competing in global tournaments is a great way to do it. So hopefully we can keep doing that. Of course, brings me to my last point on this, is that we have had a real setback this year, and that the Japans won't be going to the next Under-19 World Cup. Doesn't affect you, of course, but it does affect your brother, Ashley. This is out on a second opportunity. You're still friends with a lot of these guys. What's the feeling like amongst the players about that decision, and the disappointment that it comes with it?
I feel sorry for them to start with, but I think a lot of those kids during the last World Cup were talking about the next World Cup, the next World Cup we will, but I always knew that there was the qualifiers to play before that. So I was more like, guys, you gotta win against PNG, because I really wanted them to do that, like beat PNG, because that's something that I didn't get to do, which I'm disappointed.
Didn't get that chance to prove that we could compete.
Prove people that we can compete with other teams around the world. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Marcus. Well, we've covered a lot of wide-ranging stuff there. So
Yeah,
we'll go into the last part of the pod. I always ask everyone the same group of
yeah,
questions, which I'm sure you've been preparing for.
Mhm.
So we'll start with the cricket ones first, and then we'll go on to
yeah.
the Japan-specific questions. So, who's the best player you've played with or against?
Played again in that World Cup. You don't. It's not every day you get to play against IPL players. So
Yeah,
Kartik Tyagi, I'd say.
yeah.
Although I didn't score a run against him,
Faced
I
him for a
got
few
bowled,
overs.
but getting bowled by him is something that I can tell my grandson in the future. So probably
Right,
him.
right. And who's the best player you've played with or against in Japan?
Kendall.
Yeah,
I think.
Kadawaki Fleming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kendall Kadawaki Fleming.
Uh,
I think he is by far the best. I'd say the
you,
teammate I've played with.
yeah, okay. And you got to watch him make 180 odd against the under-19s just after that qualifying win.
Yeah, and actually I've batted with him a few times, and I think every time we batted together, we've made 50 plus partnerships. So
Encouraging signs.
yeah,
So what's the best thing you've ever learned from a coach?
see ball, hit ball. Nah, joking. There are a couple because I remember like Simon always talked about the next ball is next ball is the most important ball, and I think that is absolutely right because there's no need to think about the ball before, and like when you're doing that, you're not in the game. But one that I remember really well is we used to have these coaches from Cricket Victoria come to coach with us, and in the 2016 East Asia Cup we had David Reed, and I had so many people give me a lot of advices. I didn't know what to take, and he said, "Right, there's no one correct way to play," and I really think that that's true, and I always remind myself that there's no one way that's correct to play. So I think
Play your own way.
play my own way, yeah, backing myself. So I think that's the one that stands out.
Rear highlight?
I think 2019 grand final win was just special. That season, I think
Yeah, it was a big year. You
the
had.
consistency we showed, the consistency we showed in the youth league was, amazing.
You put that ahead of winning the qualifiers?
Uh, so that was after that, right? So they both happened at the same time.
Yeah, it's a big
So
year.
I was like having a great year of cricket basically, and like that was just like like how do you say it, the cherry on the top, is it?
Yeah, icing on the cake.
Yeah. So icing on the cake moment that was.
So we've covered a few of these already, I reckon. But is there any loss in particular that still annoys you? I reckon you might have quite a long list.
Yeah, I do have a big list, but I think there's one very fresh. A game against Wyverns this year, which somehow still annoying me. I don't know why.
When Kubota
I
came
don't know
back
why.
took out your whole tail.
Yeah, I just don't like losing against Wyverns because like they'll remind you for like until next time you play them. So I don't know, losing against Wyverns, no good.
Funniest thing you've seen happen on the cricket field?
Yeah, this was a tough one. I only recently had one. There's a guy called Freddie in Sharks. His nickname's Freddie. His name's Hamid, but he looks like Freddie Mercury, so his nickname's Freddie. And when you win comp, you do play the Queen, don't you? Like you play the
We are the champions.
like that's no brainer. And we go like Freddie sing it, and everyone else is singing except for him, and he's got this face like, why, mate? You're the Freddie. So obviously he didn't know
He
who
just doesn't
Freddie
get it.
was and what Queen is. So I thought that was funny. Freddie not singing "We Are the Champions."
So I'd heard of this guy, and Dougal had been calling him Freddie. I'm like, why'd you call him Freddie? And he's just like, oh, it's Freddie. I was like, okay, whatever. And then I met him on the weekend, and I was like, oh, okay, right. I could call him Freddie. He does look frighteningly like Freddie Mercury.
Yeah. But that happened like at the middle of XICG. So I guess that's kind of the funniest thing I'm not sure if it's the funniest thing ever, but it is the funniest thing I've seen on the cricket field.
What's your favourite format of cricket?
I like 40 overs.
Yeah.
I like Test match. I like watching Test match. I used to like T20. Not anymore. I don't know. I just like 40 overs because it's a good mix of the modern day cricket and the traditional cricket, and I do prefer slightly longer format cricket, so I
Get to
guess
spend more time.
40 overs cricket. Yeah,
Who's your favourite teammate?
it's a tough one because, as I said, I know guys like Louis, Neil, Manid, all those kids like for nearly 10 years, but I think they're all characters and they're funny. But one that stands out is probably Louis because we've probably known for the longest, and we're pretty close off the field too. So I think I guess he's my favorite.
Favourite place to play
Yeah.
cricket?
I like Samu because it's close to my house and it really feels like home. But when you play at SICs, you won that. That's probably
Sun's
cricket
out
ground then.
and yeah,
Yeah,
playing on turf.
that's great. Yeah.
Is there any stadium in particular around the world that you'd love to play at?
Yeah, so I thought about this and I can't really think of anything. But when you like watch Sheffield Shield, I love the sound that the empty stadiums make. Lot of the echo of the ball pinging about the
Sounds like a gunshot.
so I'd say an empty MCG and hopefully hitting one out of the middle and hearing that echo, I guess.
Okay, I reckon you've done a lot of thought into this final question. Can you name
Right.
one innings played by someone else that you wish you could have played yourself?
Yeah, a few. Obviously, Jack Leach, one not out. But I mean that's something that I'd like to do. But I think 2019 JCL Grand Final, Takadi 55 in front of his
His girlfriend, now wife.
now wifey. So yeah,
Yeah, obviously did the trick, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so last batch, I got some Japan-specific questions. Now, obviously, you're Japanese, so your take on this is slightly different to a lot of the other guys.
Yeah.
So, what's your favorite thing about Japan?
I think the neatness. Like, so when you like traveling on the train, like, the train's gonna be on time and everything's like just on time and accuracy of things, I think.
Given that you're the most untidy person in Japan, it's good to know that you do appreciate neatness.
I do appreciate that, yeah.
Hopefully some of it will start rubbing off on you at some point in your life.
Yeah, it can go both ways though. Like, it can get annoying sometimes because there's not enough common sense involved in it at times. But I think a lot of time that you have to appreciate the neatness
No,
of the
for
country.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any one place that a visitor must go to?
Yeah, so I don't travel much because I did travel a lot in between my place and Sano, but apart from that, I don't really go like Okinawa or Hokkaido and those other places. But one place I like is south of Chiba, which is it's just chilled out and you've got nice beaches around there. So I'd say south of Chiba. We used to like go camping every year. It's just great chilled place.
Favorite food?
I love anything that has tomato and cheese. Like I'll be happy.
Easy.
But I do like sushi too. Like sushi is something that I can have anytime. Like you don't have to be like super hungry or it's just like something that you can have anytime. Yeah.
Just pick out. Yeah. Worst food?
So it's a hard one. I don't mind the fermented food like nattos and stuff. Like that's fine. But I don't like in Japan you eat a lot of weird meat.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just all of them. I'm not a big fan of meat anyway, so
like hormone type stuff.
Hormone type stuff.
Yeah.
Anything that's weird, I'd say.
Stuff that's weird. Okay. All right. Last question then. Favorite Japanese word or phrase and its meaning?
So, I think majide, but I was gonna say yabai, but Richie said it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
and I thought like he's taken mine. Yeah, but like yabai is definitely up there, but I think majide is also up there. Like it's another word that you can use it in multiple situations. So it is a handy word, majide. Yeah.
Nice. All right, Marcus, this has been a long one. I reckon this might be my longest podcast yet. So look, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. I know you've got your studies and you've got your work to do, so you should probably get back to doing all that stuff. But thanks for the time and yeah, look, enjoy your off season, enjoy the break, and
Yeah, thank
hopefully
you. I really
come back
enjoyed it.
next year raring to go. It's a busy year for
Yeah,
the men's
uh,
national team and cricket in Japan in general in 2022.
yeah, really looking forward to it.
Nice one.
Cheers.
Thanks, Marcus. Take care.
Bye.
That concludes this episode of the Japan Cricket Podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening. And if you really enjoyed listening, then I would be forever grateful if you could rate and review the show on whatever platform you get your podcasts. It would just help others to find the show and have the added bonus of making me feel a little bit better about myself. Until next time, arigatou gozaimashita.